So, Lorenzo, I know that you talk a lot about uh, research, customer research, reviews mining research, all kinds of research. And I know it's something that you've worked with lots of brands on. And one of the things that, and since research is something that I'm not very familiar with, I want to ask you a question about like, how important is it to analyze the support tickets? So on, I'm assuming that customers are using chat, they're asking questions, and there might be some patterns over here. Um, and I'm assuming that these are being tagged and recorded. And I know your research process includes looking at that stuff. How important is that stuff in terms of improving conversion rates?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the way I think about customer support tickets, live chat, and any sort of direct conversation, almost one-to-one with the customer, I would say it can be broken down into like three main topics. One, it would be like, okay, people are reaching out to the brand because they're having a post-purchase problem, right? Maybe like, oh, I don't know where, like my order was supposed to arrive today, it hasn't arrived yet, right? Or any type of other problem that it refers to post-purchase. So maybe like, oh, you promised me that this coffee was going to keep me awake for 12 hours, but I fell asleep after 3 hours, right? Like I want a refund, right? So that is more like post-purchase experience, which from a conversion rate optimization standpoint, it's interesting. You can gather some interesting insights, but this is not what I look for. The other piece is basically like questions that are related to a product. Okay. So the classic example, I'm going to give you like a couple of examples of questions that I've seen over and over and over and over across businesses. So very common one is, what's the difference between product X and product Y, right? Super, super common. The user is trying to compare, right, two different products, or sometimes even more, and they have no idea what the difference is between product X and product Y.
Why does that matter, Lorenzo? Why is it important for them to know a difference?
Because like there has to be a product that is related to whatever they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, they just
And
can't buy, right? Without
yeah,
resolving that drama.
yeah, of course. And they're too afraid of buying the wrong thing, especially if in the past, right? Because they couldn't figure out the difference between other products that they were comparing, and then they bought it anyways because they wanted to. Okay, I'm gonna risk it anyways. But if they got the wrong product, now figuring out the difference between those two new products they're trying to figure out which one to buy is even more important, because in the past they've made a wrong choice to risk it even if they were not too sure about what the difference is.
I wanna add some point over here, Lorenzo, because I think this is a mistake a lot of brands fall for. It's a somewhat related point. So a lot of brands have this thing that they feel free returns are the holy grail. And there are two versions of this. One is that you pay for return shipping, but the other one is where the brand says we even cover the return shipping. And somehow we are under the impression that if I, as a brand, am willing to pay for return shipping and take care of all of that, then the friction is zero. This is not true for the consumer. And it depends on the kind of customer you're trying to target. If you're targeting a very price sensitive customer, maybe free returns is really a really good lubricant. For me personally, I actually tell my wife to donate stuff instead of returning it, because returning it means she's going to go to the FedEx store, she's going to package it, she's going to go to the FedEx store, she's going to put it in the stand in line, return. And I'm like, honey, it's not worth our time. And so for me, when I'm buying, even if a brand told me that we will cover return shipping, that's not a strong enough conversion lubricant for me. So your point is that if I'm trying to compare these two options, I'm not thinking to myself that, oh, let me just buy two and I'll return one I don't want. Buying two and returning one is still a pain in the butt. So I still expect the brand to help me with that. I just wanted to give context there.
Yeah. And if you're cheapo and you don't want to donate it, and you don't care about charity, just go on eBay and sell it on eBay instead of returning it. The other type of kind of like a theme of questions I've seen over and over and over are simply questions about a product, right? So if I'm buying let's say coffee again, if I'm buying coffee,
This
maybe
episode was sponsored by a coffee brand, so
if I'm buying coffee, maybe I'll have some questions about, where's the cup of coffee coming from? Where are you purchasing the coffee from, right? Are you purchasing from the US, if it's a US based company, or are you purchasing somewhere else? So to me, that gives me a signal. The questions that people, the way I think about the questions that people are asking to customer support tickets, they're blockers. They're obstacles that are not allowing the user to do one thing: click on the buy button. And I mean, isn't it powerful to know what those obstacles are? Like, wouldn't you want to know what those obstacles are in order to be a doctor and come up with a solution to fix the conversion rate of a brand?
absolutely.
So to me, it's like the customer that is telling us what their problems are that don't allow them to get to the conversion point. So it's almost like mind reading, right? Because like, oh, I want to know this information about ingredients. Well, that's a clue right there that it's telling us that people care about ingredients.
And also,
So
to add to your point, Lorenzo, for every one person who asked the question, there are 99 other people that had the question.
please, this is another super interesting point that you're raising, because how many, like, to me it's even interesting, like, the level of intent that there is for those that ask the questions versus those that do not ask the questions. And I'm even thinking about my own behavior. A year ago, I wanted to buy a gift for my girlfriend, and it was like a Dyson hair straightener. And I'm like, I couldn't figure out the difference between, because oftentimes what happens is, a brand has model 1 and model 2, right? And it's almost impossible to understand what the difference is between model 1 and model 2, or maybe even like model 1 and model 1S, right? That S, like, you can't figure out what the difference is. And I remember, my intent was high because actually my her birthday was coming up, and I spent 0 seconds, right, figuring out myself. Even I don't remember if they had any like comparison table to compare the different models and so on, but I spent 0 seconds trying to figure out myself what the difference were between one model and the other one. I went straight into live chat because I wanted to hear the experience of an expert about the product, right? So I think it's also interesting to me to understand what the intent of the people that use customer support or live chat widget versus those that don't. But your point is spot on. Out of 100 that reach out to customer support, there are other thousands that are wondering the same questions.
I think you're at point number 3 about your chat thing, right?
I actually had 2.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
in general, like the point number 3 would be like any type of problem that the user is experiencing, but that problem could be like pre or post purchase. Maybe like credit card is not working well, and
I think,
that's also like a conversion problem, right? For sure. But I think a lot of that should be, you need to have a tracking in place. Like, my recommendation is to avoid to, flood the customer support team with a lot of like these technical problems. I would rather try to fix a problem at the beginning by having a tracking system in place where, if all of a sudden from the morning to the afternoon, your add to cart rate is down 30%, right? And you have 10,000 conversions a month. I mean, yeah, something is happening there.
yeah.
And
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would say one of the things that you also mentioned related to this whole topic is with the chat is tagging of topics, because then it allows you to have weightage. So it's not just about like, okay, here's a list of 50 questions. We need to solve all of these. You need to prioritize. And I think if there's a tagging method, right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, totally. So I think CRO people that are familiar with the customer research should actually go and train customer support tickets agents. And there's a lot of reasons because of that. Maybe this could be another video as well. But basically, if you're not tagging your customer support tools, like why people are reaching out to you, you don't know. Like, there's no quick way to understand the reasons for reaching out to your team, and it wouldn't, like, it's gonna be difficult for your CRO team to understand why people are reaching out to you and start tackling. Like, if you have out of 100 tickets, if you have 40 that are asking, oh, what's the difference between model X and model Y, and only 2 asking, is this product good for this like super niche use case that you have never heard across your customers before? I mean, tackle what's the difference first, because you got 40 people mention that versus the super niche use case that nobody cares about.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Lovely.
Cool.